Compared to war, do you know what American soldiers feared most during World War II?
What do you want?
That's right, it was ghosts. This movie, Ghosts of War, shows you why ghosts are scarier than war, and the twist at the end will absolutely exceed your expectations.
Break's over.
The story takes place in 1944, when Nazi Germany had already occupied France, and a 5-man American squad is ordered to take over the next outpost. One night, while they're resting in the woods, their captain, Chris, is awakened from a nightmare and sees a shadowy figure standing beneath a tree. He is about to reach for his gun, but the figure across from him is faster and already has its weapon aimed at him. Chris closes his eyes, ready for death, but when he opens them again, the figure has vanished. The next day, they continue following the map's directions. Suddenly, Chris spots a German jeep driving towards them, so they plant a mine on the road. Facing cruel enemies, they absolutely show no mercy. Tappert, who loves collecting, always loots all the trophies first, not even sparing the large gold teeth from the mouths of the dead. One of the German officers is still alive, and the combative Butchie takes off his shirt, intending to make the guy spar with him properly. But Chris shoots the German officer dead, explaining they are already delayed and must reach the outpost by the next morning. Then the group continues, and on a plain 5 kilometers from the outpost, they spot suspicious movement ahead, quickly raising their guns ready to fight. Sniper Tappert looks carefully through his binoculars, discovering it's a group of fleeing Jewish refugees. Their clothing suggests they likely just escaped from a prison camp. The kind Tappert cautiously approaches and gives the Nazi officer's coat he just seized to the pitiful mother and child, also giving them all the large gold teeth he collected. Thinking he might die in battle any time, he figures it's better to leave them for refugees who still have a chance. That night, after passing through a town engulfed in warfare, they successfully reach the outpost the next morning. Seeing the magnificent castle before them, they are all thrilled, thinking they can finally rest properly. However, they never imagined this would be the start of their nightmare. As they approach the castle, they find a soldier sleeping in a jeep outside, which puzzles them.
Maybe he's just sleeping.
Yeah, not enough rooms.
Easy, Lou. Your relief is here.
Hey, fall asleep stargazing or something?
The soldier sees them and quickly runs into the castle to inform his comrades inside. Logically, compared to the wilderness outside, soldiers should be very reluctant to leave such a fine place. But the opposite happens. The castle's soldiers see Chris's relief team and immediately start frantically packing their bags, eager to leave this good place right away. This makes Chris suspicious, and he asks why they are in such a hurry. But the opposing captain did not respond to him. He blamed them for arriving late and ruining his vacation, then quickly departed with his soldiers, even forgetting to take their luggage. In the afternoon, seeing the kitchen fully stocked with food and endless bottles of brandy, Chris still can't understand why those men were so eager to leave. So he decides to lead the team on an inspection of the castle. This inspection, however, starts to reveal increasingly strange phenomena, beginning with wood falling over inexplicably in the basement. Then burn marks appear on the carpet. Chris sees 4 regular white spots on it, so he places a nearby chair over them, finding a perfect match. Clearly, a chair burned there before. Why would this nice office have only this one spot with burn marks? He presses his ear to the floor, listening carefully, seeming to hear faint sounds coming from inside the air vent. Meanwhile, Butchie tries to light a cigarette, but his matches keep mysteriously going out, as if someone is deliberately blowing them out. Suddenly, a door slams shut behind him. Butchie draws his combat knife and cautiously moves to investigate, trying to open the door, but finding the knob completely stuck. Assuming it's locked, he doesn't pay much attention and turns to leave. But as he walks away, the door slowly opens by itself without making a sound. Looking closely, you can see a faint figure standing behind the door. At dusk, barely after sitting down from a meal, they hear sounds like footsteps coming from upstairs.
Break's over.
Thinking intruders are present, they immediately grab their weapons ready to fight. Following the sound's direction, Chris and Kirk quickly pinpoint the location, finally identifying it as a door at the far end of the kitchen. Just as the two prepare to break the door down, it suddenly swings open by itself. Inside is a servant's dining room. Further back hangs a suspended black cloth, and the sound is coming from behind it. When they lift the black cloth, an even stranger sight appears.
Not sure what I saw.
Although Chris and Kirk are atheists, they both check if the other saw that thing, because they genuinely saw the figure of a hanged person behind the curtain moments before. Looking at the floor below, there are scratch marks from human hands, seemingly left from some terrible suffering endured before death. Suddenly, laughter comes from behind them. Running over, they find it's just coffee boiling, made by their teammate Eugene. That night, before anyone could rest, strange noises came from upstairs again, though this time it wasn't footsteps, but faint tapping sounds with a distinct rhythm. The attentive Chris immediately heard that it was Morse code. Eugene quickly grabbed paper and pen, transcribing the sound pattern into the words, "I have no legs."
S? I have no legs. Jesus.
It turned out to be a squirrel accidentally trapped in the chimney. After the false alarm, Chris told everyone to return to their rooms to sleep. Sniper Tappert went up to the castle attic to keep watch. The bored Eugene went down to the basement storage, hoping to find information about the castle's owners. As he was flipping through a journal, a nearby candle suddenly went out. When he relit it with his lighter, he discovered the people in a large group photo had vanished into thin air. The people who were clearly in the photo moments ago had surprisingly vanished, leaving only an empty chair behind. Could he actually be seeing a ghost? Speaking of ghosts, Tappert in the attic had it worse. He scanned the castle surroundings through his scope. Everything seemed normal outside at first. But soon, a spectral figure slowly emerged from the wardrobe behind him, while he completely failed to notice it. As Tappert observed more closely, he suddenly thought he saw a hanged woman in the courtyard. But when he looked again, it was empty. Just as he questioned his vision, the next moment, the skeptical Tappert took a flashlight to the courtyard for a thorough search. After enduring the night's bizarre events, they finally understood why the previous soldiers were so eager to leave. This place was genuinely haunted. Tappert received a radio message warning that a German squad would pass through tonight. About 50 men, roughly a company. With only 5 of them, the odds were heavily stacked against them. Tappert suggested abandoning the outpost to hide in the woods overnight, returning after the Nazis left. But Chris disagreed, as that constituted desertion, risking court-martial. In the end, they followed Chris's orders and stayed at the castle, guarding the outpost. As for the ghosts inside, they would ignore them for now, since the entities hadn't caused actual harm yet. In the evening, Tappert and Eugene discovered strange symbols on the attic floor while organizing. The well-read Eugene instantly recognized them as an ancient sorcerer's ritual to suppress spirits. Perhaps this was why the castle was haunted. But they had no time for that now. Preparing defenses against the Nazis tonight was crucial. As they moved a wardrobe over the symbols, its door suddenly slammed shut, trapping Eugene's finger and severing it instantly, making him blame Tappert in pain. A baffled Tappert insisted it wasn't him. After Eugene left, Tappert saw the hanged woman again in the mirror, but turning around revealed nothing. As sunset neared, their radio emitted an eerie voice like an angry woman speaking. Terrified, they began to reconsider leaving before the Nazis arrived. Yet the moment they discussed leaving, strange noises came from upstairs again.
What is that?
Followed by rhythmic Morse code tapping. Eugene hurriedly translated with his pen. He'd just written, "If you leave," when his hand began moving autonomously.
What the fuck is happening? I'm writing! I'm writing! Fuck! If you leave,
Night fell, and a Nazi squad arrived exactly as intel predicted. Sniper Tappert above tapped the floorboards as a signal. The 4 below prepared for a desperate fight. But the passing Nazis merely shone flashlights through the windows. Seeing no one, They prepared to leave. Chris's group thought they'd escaped danger, but the next moment,
That son of a bitch.
before the Nazis outside could start their vehicles, a tremendous crash erupted from the castle, seemingly announcing their presence and urging the Nazis to enter. This directly exposed them. Sniper Tappert upstairs fired first to gain initiative. Nazis below smashed a window and threw in a grenade. Butchie immediately dove onto it. The blast disoriented them. Butchie, in his heroic act, was grievously wounded. Meanwhile, the voice saying, "If you leave, you will die," echoed persistently. Chris, positioned by a window corner, fired until his pistol was empty, killing advancing Nazis. He quickly hid in the basement, waiting until a soldier descended the stairs, then grabbed his ankles to trip him. He then swiftly emerged, using his knife to dispatch another soldier. Cornered in a room, Kirk hid behind a door. The entering Nazi soldier didn't spot him. But as Kirk prepared to ambush him, he found the soldier struggling in a bathtub, with children's laughter surrounding him, as if someone was forcibly holding him underwater. The others encountered similar supernatural interventions. Before they could strike, Nazi soldiers were already killed. Eugene, ready for a final stand, was startled by a sudden ghostly face. He then saw his pursuer inexplicably tied to a chair and burned alive. This series of eerie assists suggested the castle's spirits held a deep grudge against the Nazi soldiers. The next day, after clearing all the bodies, they focused on investigating the ghosts in the castle. Eugene produced the diary he found in the basement, which recorded the entire process of how the invading German soldiers brutally murdered this Jewish family. The bizarre deaths experienced by the Nazi soldiers last night precisely mirrored the ways those soldiers had tortured this family, whose bodies were then discarded carelessly, leaving their spirits unable to rest. They completely failed to notice 4 ghostly figures now watching them from the window. Late at night, Chris approached the bathtub. Curious, he bent down to take a closer look, the result being, realizing the spirit was right beside him, Chris looked at the water's surface again and said, "I'm here to help you, not to harm you."
I'm here to help you.
Seeing no reaction in the water, he stood up to leave, utterly unaware that his own breath was now icy vapor. He was then pulled into the bathtub by an unseen force, unable to rise no matter how hard he struggled. In his daze, he saw figures of Nazi soldiers reflected on the water, mirroring the torture the boy in the castle had endured. Just as Chris was about to suffocate, Eugene woke him in time. It turned out everything just now was a dream. Butchie, who had been unconscious during the day, suddenly woke up, repeatedly shouting, "This isn't real."
This isn't real! This isn't real! This isn't
Where's the
real!
damn morphine?
It was us! 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 What was us? It was us! It was us!
Then he stopped breathing entirely. After these terrifying and bizarre events, the team couldn't take it anymore. They no longer cared about military tribunals. They had to leave this haunted place immediately. Chris silently agreed with this decision. The next day, after burying Butchie, the 4 left the castle, heading towards the next outpost. "Everyone, please remember this wrecked military ambulance right here." As they walked, something felt wrong. They encountered a familiar group of refugees. Tappert confirmed through his scope. The coat worn by a mother and child was the very one he had given her. They were utterly dumbfounded. They were walking the opposite direction, so meeting these refugees here was impossible. The 4 hesitated about whether to continue forward. Finally, after a coin toss decided it, they chose to press on into the unknown. Yet, as the sun began to set, that same wrecked ambulance reappeared before them. Left with no choice, they turned back. That night, passing once more through the war-torn town, they again bedded down in the woods. Suddenly, a spectral figure grabbed Tappert's head, and the next second, he was in the castle basement, strung up by a rope. Just as he was about to suffocate, the rope above snapped, and he was back in reality. Written clearly on the ground was Vetrolek. Confused, Tappert quickly erased it. The next day, when they passed that same military ambulance again, upon turning around, the ground was unexpectedly littered with corpses. Yes, they were the very German soldiers they had killed earlier on the road. Ultimately, they returned to the castle. Chris then thought of a solution. If the spirits inside wouldn't let them leave, perhaps finding their bodies and giving them a proper burial would let them rest and set the group free. But the diary's last page was missing, leaving them no clue to the body's location. The only way was to have a direct conversation with the spirits, making them reveal the location themselves. Chris took a bag of flour from the kitchen and sprinkled a trail from the main door all the way to the castle hall, so when spirits appeared, they could see footprints. Night soon fell. The four sat in a row in the center of the hall, Chris in the middle as he would confront the spirits directly. Like this, they waited silently. At 3 a.m., familiar footsteps and tapping sounds came from upstairs. Everyone instantly snapped to full alert. Soon, the sounds gathered before the main door, and footprints began appearing in the flour on the floor, slowly approaching them. Though Chris had mentally prepared himself, facing this malevolent force directly still filled him with uncontrollable dread. The entity dragged Chris rapidly outward. The other three froze in terror. Tappert tried physical attacks but couldn't see the thing. The levitating Chris kept shouting, "Shoot it!" But the others only saw Chris floating alone. Clearly, only Chris could see the evil spirit. Under pressure, Tappert fired shots nearby, hoping to embolden Chris or scare the thing off.
Fucking shoot
But several shots fired had no effect. Finally, they watched helplessly as Chris was dragged into a distant dark room. They rushed over and kicked the wooden door open. Upon entering, they instantly felt dizzy, strange images flashing through their minds. Luckily, they found Chris and finally saw the bodies of the castle's owners. Without delay, Chris and the others carried the bodies out, preparing to bury them nearby. During this, Eugene found a piece of paper on one body. It was the missing last page of the diary. After burying the bodies, Eugene deduced from its contents that this family wasn't Jewish, but Afghans who had migrated from the Middle East and had even kindly hidden a group of Jews before their death. But when the family was being tortured by the Nazis, not one hidden Jew came to help. In despair, the mistress placed an ancient oath on those who stood by, swearing to pursue them to the ends of the earth. That night, as they packed to leave again, Eugene discovered new content had appeared in the diary. Burying them only grants greater power to the one who placed the curse. The words were barely spoken when the surrounding lights began fading out. Then a word appeared on the wall, Vetrulek, identical to what Tappert saw earlier. And this was the name of the curse. As the symbols on the attic floor glowed with golden light, an eerie and terrifying murderous aura rushed towards them. The empowered evil spirits charged directly at them. Chris and his men couldn't understand why this family's ghosts kept haunting them, attacking so viciously as if they themselves had murdered the entire family. They fought back using all their weapons, but it had no effect. Eugene, seeing this, simply pulled the pin on a grenade and shoved it into the boy ghost's arms. The spectral boy, before the bomb exploded, thoughtfully pushed him away. Yet after the loud blast, an incredible scene unfolded. The boy ghost's body began flickering, glitching like an NPC in a virtual world. Then the other three evil spirits started doing the same. Suddenly, the dead Butchie appeared behind them, shouting repeatedly, "This isn't real!" A spirit grabbed Chris's head and shoved him towards a mirror. The next second, the space around them began to warp. When he opened his eyes again, he saw several modern people standing before him. He was utterly confused. Had he time traveled? He quickly looked around and saw his teammates lying in beds. Suddenly, he realized he had no feeling in his legs. Pulling back the covers, he discovered his legs were missing. As he stared in shock, a nurse beside him removed the tube from his mouth. Prompted by Dr. Engel, Chris gradually regained his memory.
Where am I?
You're flown to a special off-book facility. You remember your last day in Afghanistan, Lieutenant?
It turned out they were a squad sent to Afghanistan on an escort mission, tasked with protecting a local intelligence doctor. But just as the squad prepared to leave with Mr. Hellwig, they suddenly received news of approaching terrorists. To temporarily avoid unnecessary conflict, their superiors ordered them to hide in a concealed safe room nearby. Soon, the terrorists arrived at Mr. Hellwig's home. Although he usually had contact with these terrorists, their intent was clearly hostile this time. They had learned of Mr. Hellwig's dealings with U.S. forces, suspecting he provided intel causing their heavy losses. The terrorists then subjected Mr. Hellwig's family to torture. Chris and the others inside couldn't bear to watch, taking aim at the terrorist leader's head, ready to attack. But the next moment, another group of terrorists arrived outside, equipped with heavy weapons on their vehicle. If they revealed themselves now, not only would they fail to save anyone, but they'd all be wiped out. After careful consideration, Chris decided to delay their action. Ultimately, they stood by and did nothing, watching helplessly as the Hellwig family was tortured to death. The son was drowned alive, the daughter was hanged, and Mr. Hellwig was burned to death using gasoline. In despair, Mrs. Hellwig cursed everyone present, including Chris and his men who stood by. Although the tragic death of the Hellwig family brought immense pain to the entire squad, they had no other choice. Afterwards, just as the terrorists left the scene, their superiors informed them that drones had locked onto the targets, ordering the squad to stand down. They walked out of the house with heavy hearts. Suddenly, Mrs. Hellwig charged out holding a bomb. Butchie immediately tackled her, and the five were blasted apart before they could dodge. Remembering all this revealed the answers. This was why the vengeful spirits in the dream wouldn't let them go. Dr. Engel explained that the therapy system placed them in the World War II dreamscape to help the five of them bond better, achieving optimal therapeutic results. If someone died during real-world treatment, they would die in the dream. Butchie died during resuscitation attempts in reality. That's why only Butchie died in the dreamscape. But Chris had a question. Why were the ghosts also included in the program? Dr. Engel looked puzzled, stating their system had no such setting. As he spoke, the lab lights began flickering. The next moment, an even more incredible scene appeared. The ghosts of the Hellwig family were visible on the monitor screen. It seemed the ancient curse was truly active, manifesting not only in reality but also invading the therapy system. Understanding now, Chris immediately told the nurse to place them back into the memory segment in Afghanistan, attempting to rescue the family within the dream and make amends, hoping to lift the terrible curse. But upon entering, the nurse neglected a core system rule. All of Chris's prior memories would be erased upon re-entry.
Wait, Chris! 10. Your memory will be wiped. 9.
When Chris woke up again, he was back in World War II. Not in the modern-day Afghan rescue mission he had requested, but in the same forest from the beginning of the story, with that shadow still standing under the tree. This meant they were trapped forever in this infinite dream loop until the vengeful spirits of the Hellwig family finally killed them.
What do you want?